What fine print has messed you over? I was 18 and went to sign up at Gold's Gym with a friend who was 17. They asked me to sign on her contract since she wasn't 18. I said, "What am I signing? I'm not gonna be responsible if she doesn't pay or something, right?" They said, "Oh no, nothing like that. Since she is a minor, you are just signing that she won't sue if she hurts herself or something." Okay. I was young and dumb, whatever. The collection agency a year later proved otherwise. Screw Golds and screw your friend for messing you over like that. I got ripped off at a gym too. I was young and didn't really know what I was doing. They told me they were giving me an offer they were only allowed to do the first time someone came in, and it is their best possible deal. But that if I walked away I could never be offered the deal again, so I signed up. When I got home, I told my dad what happened. He went down there, spoke to the manager, got me taken off of a contract altogether and worked it out so I could pay a flat sum in cash for the months I was gonna use their facilities. He saved my ass and taught me a lot about negotiation. I worked for a construction company. Upon hiring me, they gave me a stack of paper an inch and a half thick as a safety manual. Wanting to look dedicated, I flipped it open to a random page and started reading. The first part one come to says if I quit or am fired and do not return said Xerox safety manual, there will be financial repercussions. It was a shit company. Found something better in a month. When I quit, I handed the stack of paper to my foreman. He looked at me dumbfounded and asked, "You actually read this fucker?" I don't even want to know how many people they screwed with that bit. I'm guessing the fine usually coincided with the amount on the final paycheck. I'm by no means a legal expert, but I'm under the assumption that a company can't legally withhold any of a person's paycheck for something like this. But I also believe it varies by state. Any legal minds care to weigh in? Just a law student taking contract law, but courts pretty much assume that nobody reads all the fine print in contracts like this, like the TOA you sign whenever you download software. There is a rule where any clause is not enforceable if a reasonable person would not have agreed to it had they known it was there. So basically you can't sneak in a "You owe us your firstborn child for hiring you" on page 34 with size 8 font. So it depends on how reasonable the financial repercussions were. If they were asking for thousands of dollars, then it's probably not enforceable. If they just wanted $15 for the cost of the manual, then it's probably okay. It is their property after all. We paid for a parking space at our old apartment complex, and there was fine print about being allowed to tow your car from its space if it was undrivable, or something like that, presumably so you couldn't leave some sort of ice or out front. Well, we woke up one morning to find my husband's car gone and the front desk claiming that it had a flat tire and was therefore towable. It had gone flat sometime after he got home the night before and they had towed it by morning. Then when we went to retrieve it from the towing place, it had been completely ransacked, doors standing wide open and everything including the stereo missing, with rain damage from the doors being open all night in a storm to boot. They told us with a completely straight face that they weren't responsible because it was like that when they picked it up. Yeah, right, I'm sure they towed it with the doors wide open. We talked to some other people with similar complaints and figured that the apartment rental would puncture your tires in the middle of the night, tow you before you could discover it, and get a kickback from the towing place. Paid for the privilege of having our car stolen. Learned my lesson about fine print. Very similar experience at an apartment complex about 10 years ago. The manager's husband would go out in the middle of the night and scrape the registration stickers off from random cars' license plates, resulting in the towing company towing them between 3 and 4 a.m. Obviously there were kickbacks going on, since it was the property manager's husband doing the actual deed. We set up a camera and caught it on film, after it had happened to both myself and my roommate. We busted him doing it to 4 other cars in front of our building, over the course of 3 nights. Got the police involved. Ultimately the manager's husband was arrested. Don't know specific charges or outcome. The manager was fired, and the towing company went out of business a couple months later. Never got our money back, but still felt good busting them for it. Did you fuck them up? If by fuck them up you mean use the internet to leave them all kinds of shitty reviews in an impotent rage. Unfortunately nobody could really prove anything, but it was awfully coincidental how many people got flat tires after signing a contract giving them permission to tow your car for a flat tire. And how efficient they were about enforcing it. Why? The landlord must have been out in the parking lot every night checking to make sure no one's tires had gone flat between getting home and leaving the next morning. We also filed a police report over the car being broken into. But nothing ever really came of it, since they couldn't prove who did it or where it happened. Paying with PayPal. There are many places that when you make a seemingly one-time payment, it authorizes that site to automatically bill you without you having to provide your credentials. A long time ago, I made a purchase from Big Fish Games and paid with PayPal. A week ago, I noticed a charge for $1.99 and then an hour later $249.99. Apparently, that single purchase I made years ago authorized Big Fish to automatically process payments without me having to re-enter my username or password. The charges were reversed, but I had $250 tied up from my checking account for almost 2 weeks because of it. You can see what sites are pre-authorized by going to Profile My Money, My Pre-Approved Payments. Anything listed there as active can automatically charge you without you logging in or authorizing the charge. Thank you so much for posting this. I just logged back into my own PayPal account and there were a couple of companies in my pre-authorized payments section that definitely shouldn't have been there. Luckily, they didn't make any random charges. About 6 to 7 months ago, I was looking for a job, being the typical poor high school kid in the senior year where their parents did not give much pocket money anymore. Unfortunately, I had no idea how to write a resume, so I went on a site called Live Career, which helps people format and make their resumes. Good idea, right? Nope. They don't tell you that you need to pay to print until you've already finished the resume. But it was only $3 for a one-time payment, so why not? So I print out maybe 10 copies and I never touched the website again since I can just scan and reprint the resume if I ever needed it again. Now I always had a casual job of walking people's dogs, which got me around $40 per week, which I almost always put straight into my bank. But I noticed that I never had enough money for lunches, snacks at school now, let alone for entertainment. This goes on for another 4 to 5 months before I finally checked my banking statement, which gave me the biggest fucking shock of my high school life. Fucking livecareer.com had been taking $54.95 out of my account every month as a recurring payment. They also hid their name by using another alias. So now I'm about $250 short because I got fucking scammed by the scum of a company who advertise one-time payment as recurring because people don't bother to read the receipt on the email, which states on the very bottom in tiny letters, "Recurring payment will incur unless cancelled." Fuck me too, I was dumb. But fuck you too, Live Career. I didn't even get a job. I didn't realize there's a market for making money off people who don't even have income. That's absolutely scummy. I think there's a market for anything which makes money. My home was broken into, electronics and jewelry stolen. Only then did I find out the fine print on homeowners insurance. Jewelry is limited to $1,000 total per incident. They told me this while the police were dusting my house for prints. That didn't cover her grandmother's anniversary ring. Never mind stuff I bought her in the Navy while overseas. Get your stuff appraised, get floaters on it. It's cheap per year. And so worth it if something happens. HOA contracts. Thank fuck I figured it out before I signed, or I would have to pay a $250 fine if my grass was 1 inch too tall. My husband and I are living in a neighborhood with the HOA from hell. Second month we were here, they towed my car, which was registered with them, for my parking tag being on my dashboard rather than my mirror. It cost me $300. Next, our car got broken into and stole some stuff, nothing big, but still. We went to tell the HOA so that they could notify the neighborhood, and they wouldn't listen to us because we aren't homeowners. Now last week, we had packages stolen off our porch. We filed another police report, and tried again to contact the HOA and fucking nothing. They wouldn't hear a word. Our Wi-Fi is now called fuck the HOA, passive aggressiveness at its best. I had a recording contract with Universal Music when I was 16. I was too excited and naive to read every line in the contract and signed a $360 deal, losing the rights to my previously written music and owing UM a few $1,000s after a year of working with them. Always have a lawyer look over contracts before signing. What I thought was a dream come true ended up being a shitstorm. Edit to provide more information. I learned that the main reason they signed us for that year was because we sounded too similar to one of their upcoming bands, and had a growing online following. Their goal was to basically take us off the market for the year to provide it less in genre competition for the other band. We ended up owing them for all of our studio time, most of our merchandise costs, and travel expenses for the few terrible shows they put us on. When I opened a store in a mall, part of the agreement said that if someone came to the mall, for the purpose of going to my store, and they had a slip and fall injury, that the mall would charge my business for damages. My lawyer had a good laugh at that. Marked it out of the text. The mall accepted the annotated contract. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.